Welcome to another episode of Powerful Pound Boxing Report. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News, Daniel from the Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gent?
Happy New Year. We could still say that here at the P for P.
Thank God for 2021
I have to take.
so far.
Thank
So
you.
far.
Indeed.
4 whole
Finally,
days.
2020.
We're hanging by a thread.
Right. Yeah, right. Because 2020 was a mess and culminated by the passing of one of my favorite MCs ever, MF Doom. If you're checking out the show live on, if you're checking out the show, excuse me, on iTunes and Spotify and those kind of platforms, podcast platforms, the music that you heard at the beginning of the show is kind of a Doom tribute from the homie Marion from ALBM Production, who does closing music for the show. And I will close. I will instead of a regular closing music that he provides, I am going to play some Doom to close off the show. Just give a warning about, just give a note about that beforehand. Yeah, we're back, kicking into 2021 after taking some time off at the end of 2020 to observe Christmas and the holiday season. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog discussing all things boxing for the time being. The place you want to go to check out all information regarding the show is the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. Check the top right of the blog page. We'll find information. Check us out all over social media. Got the Facebook page, the Twitter page, and if you want, the Tumblr page, because it's technically still active. Where you could donate to the show. We got a Cash Me and PayPal donation link. If you got some spare change, particularly if you got some of that stimulus money and you want to shoot some coins to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, by all means, whatever you can spare, $1, $2, $5, it does not matter. It will help the overall production of the show behind the scenes. Also, on the blog page, you'll find links to what check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Mixcloud, with just about everywhere that distributes podcast platforms. And last but certainly not least, if you're into the New Year's resolution thing, and one of your New Year's resolution is to get into some shape, to start working out, or if you want to up your fitness to another level, just check out my online coaching page. I am an online coach for Beachbody.com. Get ready to start another group fitness challenge on Beachbody On Demand. I'm going to try to get Daniel into it in 2021. Whether it's the 10 rounds program, whether it's 6 weeks of the work, whether it's bar blend, which the ladies really like, MFB, which is another popular program there, classic P90X series, the Insanity series, or Body Beast for those who like to really, really lift weights. Body Beast Live 4 programs that cater to any specific need that you're looking for. You can find on Beachbody On Demand, and also on Beachbody On Demand, 2-week trials that runs throughout the year. It continues on into 2021. So if you want to get at the very least 2 weeks of free workouts in, check out on my online coaching page over on Pound for Pound Box Report blog page. With that being said, let's get things going. Talking about some bouts over the last 2 weeks. Going to go from recent, what just happened, until what we missed out on during our time off. Let's start in Texas. Ladies first, as always, Gail. In Dallas, the Dallas area, I should say. And you got Ryan Garcia, who's couldn't keep your name out of his, but you couldn't keep your name out of your mouth. You're talking about boxing in 2020. Very popular. Likes to talk a lot about how good he is and whatnot, but he has yet to be proven. Well, he got that quote unquote test over the weekend in Texas, January 2nd, I believe was the date. Fought Luke Campbell for a quote unquote interim title, WBC interim world title, and I have to stress that because Devin Haney is the legit WBC champion, and a lot of people seem to forget that now in the aftermath of Teofimo Lopez's win and this fight that just took place. I mentioned test because early on, Gail Garcia, something happened to him that's never happened before. He got put down with the left hand, but he kind of regrouped himself, dusted himself off, did what he had to do to control reasonably the remaining rounds. And then in round 7, he struck with a mean body shot, left hook to the body that put Campbell down and out. Um, Afterwards, he's talked about fighting Tank Davis. Your assessment of his performance, was there cause for pause? The fact that he got put on the deck. Uh, is he ready for Tank Davis next?
Well, let's take it step by step. First of all, he was, he's an outspoken young man. He's a confident young man. He's talked a lot of talk. And a lot of observers wondered if he'd walk the walk this time. Every time he's had a fight in the last few years, it's been, okay, Ryan's going to get another test. Well, he walked through Romero Duno. He walked through Francisco Fonseca. No huge surprise, honestly, except for the way he did it with quick knockouts. No one expected that was going to happen here with Luke Campbell. And while he was a favorite, there were a lot of people thinking, he might win ugly. He might get a gift on the cards. He might get tested. And when he was dropped early in the fight by an absolute legit, didn't see it coming, put his guard down, left hook to the face, he dropped good and hard to the canvas. And those gasps you heard were people saying, okay, first time he's been knocked down in his professional career. Gets back in the corner. And if you were watching the DAZN broadcast or any of the replays, you heard trainer Eddie Reynoso say to him, you made a mistake. You left your guard down. He really took it to him. And to his credit, Garcia said, I understand. I gotcha. And he knew what he did. He corrected that. He shook it off. He regained his wits about him pretty well. And from there on, it didn't make him more cautious. In fact, if anything, it made him step on the gas. It must have given him the confidence to say, okay, this guy caught me here with a good, hard, flush shot, and it didn't wreck me. I'm okay. I can handle this. And it is absolutely the best possible thing career-wise, long-term fortune-wise that could have happened to Garcia. To have to deal with that, walk through it, get back up off the canvas, because every fighter's going to have to do it once in their career, if not more than that, as they move up in opposition. And he handled Campbell. And sure enough, that little lightning fast, short delivery left hook that he's got, whether it's to the body or the head, came out to play. My favorite, absolute number one with a bullet, favorite kind of knockout. The perfect left hook to the liver. And there's that so interesting delayed reaction. The fighter doesn't go down immediately. It takes just that heartbeat before the pain sets in, that taser pain. Campbell dropped to a knee, and later after the fight said, I tried to get up. I tried, and I just couldn't do it. And there you go. So Garcia walks away with, so far, the best win of his career. Calls out Devin Haney, who's sitting ringside. He actually called out Tank Davis first. I love the aggression among these guys, saying they all want to fight each other. Credit, in my opinion, guys like Teofimo Lopez Jr., who not only talked it, but done it, have shamed some of these other guys into it. And I think we will see them all fight each other. Will it be next? In what combinations? Not 100% sure about that. But I do think we'll all see them tangle. Of course, they'd all love to drag it out a little bit. They'd really love to have fans in the seats. But the pandemic still gets a say, so we'll see.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'll go to you, Daniel. Gail, within her description, is basically making an argument that long term, the fact that Garcia had some trouble and had to overcome at least some adversity will be good for him. Um, when you take your recap and take a look back a couple of days later after this fight has taken place, do you agree, or do you see it's just some signs of uh, some issues there from a technical standpoint or a chin standpoint? Your overall breakdown.
In many ways, it's a bit of both because, yeah, the punch that Campbell landed, that overhand left that he landed pretty flush on the chin, was a result of the fact that Ryan just disregarded the head defense and put his hand down, left it wide open. That is a lapse of defense, but at the end of the day, it does benefit him because now he knows what the reaction is when he's down on the canvas. And it was a good thing to him that it happened early on because he got to weather it out. He saw how it helped. And it let him focus a little bit more and put a little bit more emphasis on that part of the defense throughout the rest of the fight, where he let his distance, he let his range dictate a lot of what happened in that fight. And he didn't give Luke Campbell not many other opportunities to land that shot again. And that was mainly what the fight was about. Luke Campbell, sturdy, reliable, really good contender when it comes to this class. You can make the case that he beat Linares in that fight. Like I said, there's a case you can do it. There's a case, like I said, he did pretty fairly well against Loma when he had his chance. So he's a pretty credible contender. And they're not Ryan, because they're both in the same weight class in a way. Ryan was able to handle adversity from that type of level of contender. And then in many ways, as much as like the pacing Campbell was dictating in ring generalship, he was dictating that type of pace in the fight. The distance was being mainly dictated a lot by Ryan Garcia. And the way the shot came at the end, it wasn't something where it was in close distance. It wasn't really like an outstretched left to the liver. Perfect mid-range, pretty much returned the favor, with Campbell just putting up his hands just enough to protect himself from a headshot, was able to land immediately in that body. And you could tell in that slow-mo that Campbell was not gonna be able to get up. It was a good performance overall. When it comes to level of competition, it shows that Ryan Garcia is growing into his power. That was one of my main concerns when he was moving up in the age. Like, is he gonna grow into the power that you need in lightweight and at 140 later on? It looks like that's going to be the case. And it's going to tell very, very interesting fights coming up because, from my understanding, it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Probably within the next 48 hours that the WBC will officially order him versus Haney for the WBC belt. But that is a Cheeks fight because he said he wants Tank, he wants Teofimo, and right now there really isn't. The only fighter that there's a type of promotional block is Tank. Haney's open for business, and Lopez is open for business. So it opens up the possibilities for a good performance by Garcia overall.
good overall, but I'm not going to sit here and definitively say, watching this, he's the best lightweight in the world. Uh, no way. I asked you whether you saw whether it was concerning the way he got knocked down from a technical or chin standpoint. I think there is some chin from a technical standpoint. Eddie Reynosa's right. He got caught uh, of defensive slip. Um, he wasn't thinking on his feet, and the problem I see with Garcia is from a defensive perspective. Offensively, he's fine. He has speed. He has power. He can throw. He throws excellent combinations um, to the head and body. But he's tall, but he fights straight up. And moving forward, if he's going to fight a Haney, if he's going to fight Tank Davis, he has to improve that because if that was Tank in there that hit him with that kind of left hook, he would have went down, and he might not have gotten up. And if he would have got up, Tank Davis would have made him regret for ever getting up because he would have finished him off right then and there. Um, so that's the issue for me moving forward. Good win, very good win actually, but there's still some improvement to do. I mentioned Tank, I mentioned Haney, and I'll open up the question for both of you. Daniel, you mentioned that uh, soon, very soon, the WBC is going to mandate a fight between Garcia and Haney. Garcia being an interim champion, WBC, Haney being the full WBC champion. But Garcia keeps talking about Tank, but not Tank. Tank. If you were Oscar De La Hoya, I'll ask the both of you this: what direction would you take him? Personally, I say keep him away from Tank because say what you want about Tank Davis, but if he's right. No, no, no. With his power, he would hit Garcia and hit him a lot. That may be a felony offense if he was to land those kind of punches that he land that kind of left hand he did. I think you mentioned Gayle that after the fight, who would you like to see him with, and who would you think he would be better against? So that kind of thing that you best again in terms of future for Ryan Garcia.
Lost a little bit of that due to some mic muffling, but let me take the generic question. I agree. I don't think Tank is Garcia's first choice of opponent. Absolutely not. For one thing, Tank's a lot beefier, bigger than Garcia. So it's not quite as even of a playing field just from that physical standpoint. I think Garcia needs to get a tiny bit more man strength if he's going to. If he's going to, we don't know what it'll look like. He's only 22. He's got a lot of years ahead of him. Tank's a little older than Ryan. I think Tank's what, 5 years older, 27, something like that. Maybe he's not quite that old. I take that back. Um,
I think he'll be 27 this year.
yeah, I think a matchup with Haney would be great. Garcia and Haney know each other from the amateurs. You know, they're fairly friendly actually on the surface. They have a very decent working relationship. They jab at each other all the time about who has the most wins over who from the amateurs, and they both say, I do, no, I do, no, I beat your ass, no, I beat your ass more than you beat my ass. So all in good fun. So there's that would present some interesting dynamics. And Haney is not as big a power threat. I think Garcia is faster than Haney. Haney certainly can land a power punch. I mean, he does have it, but he's not a guy driven by the power punch. He can box. Sometimes he chooses to box. And Ryan, if he makes a mistake against Haney, he's less likely to pay a big price than if he makes a mistake against Tank, to your point. So if he's going to go up against one of the big names, I think he takes on Haney first. And the fact that Haney was present ringside, that just speaks to all good things coming together for that kind of fight. And I hope all these young guys who are calling out each other are good to their word and give us a throwback look, at the era of the Four Horsemen, right? And they really do tangle with each other. If they all fight each other and, rematches and trilogies, they could all fight each other in a round robin tournament that goes on for years. And boxing fans would be really well served, especially if you throw a couple of the veterans in the mix here from time to time. It's nothing but good for boxing. It's super exciting.
Before I go to you, Daniel, I'm gonna give a shout out to Olaf, the Mighty, and in particular, Natty Turner, the Black Burke Sugar of this YouTube shit. Um, for those who check out the show and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Spotify and whatnot, the opening music that you hear during prior to each episode, uh, give a blessing to him, Natty Turner. He's the one who provided blessed me with the beat and the lyrics for the opening music that you hear on the show, and he has a new album out right now. So check out his stuff. I believe he has it on his official YouTube channel. So check out him. He got some new music that dropped at the very end of last year. So shout out to both of y'all. Make sure to hit that like button, fellas. If you have any comments or questions, please don't be scared to give comments and questions during the show. I'll go back to the topic at hand. Daniel, if you were his handlers of, if you were the handler, if you're the promoter, manager, whatnot of Garcia, what direction would you take him?
Well, the WBC kind of made the choice for me. I would take the shot at Haney because for both of them, they're both young. They're both in many ways still trying to prove themselves in this fight. And they're at a point in the career where a loss will not really hurt either of them. So Haney would be the easiest spot. And obviously, like, you stay within the Golden Boy, the zone, matchroom bubble in the sense. So it's not a lot of, you don't have to think about a lot of cross promotion going into a Tank. That's what I said. Right now, because he's still with Floyd, and by extension, Floyd, you're with Heyman. I don't see a Tank fight happening really anytime soon. And the only other opponent at that point, like I said, if you're looking at world title fighters, is Lopez, is Teofimo. I wouldn't put him against Teofimo yet. Haney seems to be the one that is going to get it, and it'll be an interesting fight into it because they're both still learning how the fight's going on. Particularly Garcia, since, like I said, this is his third or fourth fight under the Reynoso camp, from my understanding. So he's not get acclimated into it, and that'll be the fight for me to go. Like, if there's a chance you can get Lopez, I would go Lopez, but the WBC kind of makes it the easier path for it. I don't see Tank coming in a while unless either Floyd decides to go to the zone for that fight, or if Oscar's willing to take at least for this fight to the PBC. And right now, neither option looks good at the moment.
I agree that Haney and Garcia were more likely to be the next big fight for both gentlemen. But if I'm Floyd, since Ryan is talking all this stuff about how he wants Tank Davis and he'll do this and do that to him, and they've been beefing on Twitter, you know what I do out with Floyd? Call his bluff this week, make an announcement. Okay, Ryan, okay, Oscar, Golden Boy, let's make it happen and see what they do. I just want to see the reaction from Team Garcia and Oscar if Floyd does that. But in the end, you're right. Both of you are right. You will probably see Garcia and Haney this year, summer, fall of this year, and it'll be a good fight. I would still pick Haney at this point because I think he's the smoother boxer. I think he's more technically sound. And then Garcia, again, I still have issues with Garcia from a defensive perspective. But let's make it happen. Two young men, both on the come up, both very popular. millennial Gen Y, G Z Fox boxing fans would eat it up, and let's hope we see it later on this year. Let's move to Japan, Tokyo to be specific. I'll go to you on this one, Daniel. Uh, Hardcore geeks like ourselves and followers of the smaller guys um, were ecstatic over the news back in November 19 when the announcement was made that Kazuto Ioka would defend his WBO 115-pound world title against Kosei Tanaka, who's moving up from 112. Tanaka, former three-time champion, 105, 108, 112. Ironically, so is Ioka, three-time champion, also at 105, 108, and 112, and current champion 115. Well, we went into this great detail breaking down this fight. Uh, Oh no, no, no! I'm sorry. We didn't. We talked a lot about the fight when it was announced. We weren't able to preview it because we were off. But I will say for the record here, I thought that Tanaka was the favorite. I thought he would win, and I thought he was a emerging pound for pound fighter. Shout out to Fink, Art of Boxing, and happy holidays to you as well. Um, I'll mention your comment in a bit, Fink. Uh, but man, did Ioka uh, prove me wrong. Uh, I wrote about this for Three Kings Boxing. You can check it out at threekingsboxing.com. Um, that was a master performance by Ioka. He seized control early, the guile, the professionalism. Um, he fought smart. Tanaka fought hard. And when Ioka put Tanaka down with the first left hook, I can't remember which round. It seems like Tanaka panicked a bit, and Ioka just took advantage and just ate him up, and just in the end took him to school, put him down 3 times, stopped him in the eighth. I could make an argument that is the top performance of 2020. Your reaction?
Ooh. Oh God, that was a beautiful fight. That was a beautiful fight. And what it shows is how rich, how deep 115 is. And we do have to take it to the account the fact that I understood Tanaka making the move. I completely understood because somebody like Kazuto would be a hell of a scout to have at his age. And to be the one that says that you're the one that retired Ioka. But we have to remember Ioka was retired for briefly, but it wasn't because he had too many fights, he was washed up. He retired mainly to try to live his life. He was married, he wanted to spend time with his wife. Ultimately, he got back, and it showed that he was nowhere near done. Now, the fight, like I said, they started filling themselves out within the first 2 or 3 rounds. Tanaka, at least to me, his best round was in the fourth, where he came on really, really aggressive, tried to really hurt Eka, but in any of the rounds, I don't think he really hurt Costa. And then from that fourth, Costa put on the brakes. The first knockdown was in the fifth round,
In the fifth, yeah, it was in the fifth. I remember now. It was in round five.
and you can say sometimes it could be like could be considered a flash knockdown with the way, yeah, yeah, and you can make a case that okay, it might have been a bit of a flash knockdown with the way that Tanaka got up, but the other two knockdowns, the first one happened I think in the seventh, because Tanaka had a little bit of a bounce back round in the sixth. The seventh looked pretty bad. The one that ended the fight in the eighth, the referee had to catch Tanaka. And Tanaka didn't look like he was really, really, really out there until like moments later. It shows how deep 115 is, and it still gives you visions of what we could see, particularly in Japan, since they're all within the same promotional sphere. It would be fun to see Gallo versus Kazuto, Chocolatito versus Kazuto, Cuadras versus Kazuto. Because you're still in that division. And for Tanaka, like I said, yeah, you kind of bit off a bit more than you can chew. But you know what? You showed in this fight that you're going to be next. Well, that's coming up. It just wasn't around this time, but has out to Kazuto, fought well, composed throughout the fight, never really fought desperate, landed his shots well, and from the fifth round on, he was pretty much in charge.
Shout out to Fink in the chat. Shout out to Lisa in the chat. Lisa, Lisa, even you, Natty. If you want to hop on the show, just let me know and I'll shoot you the link to join us. I'll go to you guys to talk about um, Tanaka's win over Ioka's win over Tanaka. It wasn't just the fact that he won; it was how he won. I can't really add on to what Daniel said. Um, Beautiful performance, even more than what Fury did to um, um, Wilder, because we all knew Wilder was as hard as Deontay Wilder punches. We all knew that he was flawed from a technical standpoint. That wasn't the case here. Tanaka was highly skilled, explosive, could punch, um, aggressive, mean little guy with when it comes to particular inside, mean little inside fighter as well. He is complete, and Ioka just slowly broke him down, got the jab going. He was able to counter with. He was able to counter. He exposed Tanaka for kind of fighting a little bit too coming too much in the straight line. Uh, he outthought he outthought Tanaka. In the end, it was a beautiful display of professionalism, right? And for me, it cemented his status as a Hall of Fame fighter. Am I being too a bit too hyperbolic in terms of how impressive this win was?
Very impressive win. I admit I did not see it coming. I thought youth would prevail in this case, that it was time for a bit of a changing of the guard. Couldn't be happier to be wrong because the fight delivered in every way. What a shame that one of the streaming services, ESPN Plus or DAZN, didn't, especially DAZN, didn't pick this up. I mean, what would it have hurt to give the US and broader audience a chance to get up early and see this, although it wasn't too tough to find a stream?
Yeah,
This,
Box Nation had the sense to pick it up, but
yes, they
not the
did.
zone
Yeah,
or ESPN. That was an error on both of their parts.
it really was. I don't know if it was because, we're running into the holidays and it's just hard to, with a short crew, people off, getting that going. Who knows? Um, Truly a shame, but you can find it online now, YouTube, not a problem if you haven't seen the fight. Well worth a look. It just shows you that sticking to quality fundamentals applied with experience really can make the difference over someone even as skilled as Tanaka. You know, just a terrific fight. And both fighters need to be fighting at the highest level, trying to figure out the puzzle to deliver a fight like that. So, yes, someone walks away with a victory, but neither participant is a loser in any way. It doesn't diminish Tanaka in any way to lose the fight the way he did. Really a good fight. And the reason why we love the lower weight divisions, action, action, action.
It's going to be interesting where Tanaka goes from here because he had such success at 105, and particularly 108 and 112. He went up reaching for glory, right, and reaching to hit the next plateau in his career. Not the next plateau, reaching for higher heights in his career, right, and he failed. Um, will he try to stay at 115? Will he go back down to 112? Can he still make 112 pounds? Because if so, there's still fights out there for him, particularly a showdown against the likes of Julio Cesar Martinez, right? Who's a WBC champion, a little tiny terror himself at 112 pounds. Or will he try to shoot for the rematch against Ioka? In terms of Ioka, the world is oyster right now. Um, Even before the fight, he talked about wanting to face the winner of the rematch between the March 13th rematch between Estrada and Chocolatito. I would love it. Sign me up right now. If Ioka is able to leave the country because of the situation with the pandemic, right? If I'm his handlers, I'm at ringside. I'm at ringside, and I'm making it known that I want to fight, and I'm trying to get into the ear of the folks at the Zone for an interview either during the fight or after the fight. Um, Ioka versus either Roman or Gaio. Beautiful fight. One of the fights of the year, in my opinion. Again, just like this fight with Tanaka is one of the best matchups of the year. So uh,
Oh,
he's right there.
hell, who would want to see him against Quadras for that matter? While you're waiting for Estrada and Chocolatito to settle their business. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for him. And
And
yeah, if he,
the real golden nugget out there is, let's just say Ioka dares to move up to 118 pounds and fight anyway. You want to
could,
talk? If this fight was big, you talk about this fight being big in Japan. It's the biggest fight ever over there.
well,
They fight at the end of the year. My goodness.
here's another option. You stage the fight in Japan or in Southeast Asia somewhere, and you give Sorangasai a call. I mean, there's so many options. And you're right. If he chooses to go down to 112, you have Martinez. You also have Nakatani. You know, you also have Artem Dalakian, who's 20-0 from the Ukraine, undefeated at 112. And if you really want to grab for glory and do something in the U.S., give Bam Rodriguez, the youngster, a call, the young southpaw from Texas. Trainer Robert Garcia, I have heard him say Bam Rodriguez right now is the most talented fighter in his stable. That is a hell of a statement coming from Garcia. So we got all kinds of possibilities here and options, and you know what? Every one of them is good.
Sorry again, I was on mute. I'm going to read some comments here from the YouTube live YouTube chat. Lisa says that Ioka is a beautiful technician in the ring. Um, Saint Britt, shout out to Saint Britt Sports. He says that some great fights are possible for Ioka. Now, him versus Estrada or Chocolatito would be unreal. I agree with that. And I'm going to go back to our discussion about Ryan Garcia. Let me see if I can find it from Fink. He's and give a quick question. Give a quick response to that. Fink says, "Happy New Year's all." I reckon Javier
Yeah,
Fortuna is out the
I think
picture.
that's a good call.
Your thoughts? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's out of the picture. I mean, you know, Fortuna, you know, his his last fight, yeah, he got a win in his last fight, um, but yeah, I I think when he's only 31 years old, he's certainly not completely out, but I just see him as a second tier guy. I mean, he lost to Robert Easter for Pete's sake. He lost to Jason Sosa for that matter. Um, he has stayed is he did get in a fight this last year. I'll give him credit for that. Um, but he wasn't exactly up against a world beater in Antonio Torres. So I just don't know how much he has left. It would be the kind of fight that would be a career builder. I don't think it proves a whole lot. So, uh, not enthusiastic, but it wouldn't be an embarrassment. I'll put it that way.
And to your point about Bam Rodriguez, our official scorecard boxing site says Bam Rodriguez is a wonderful fighter indeed. Hadn't talked much about him, Gail. Um, since we are in beginning of the year, kicking in 2021, give some specifics on the young Bam Rodriguez who's being trained by Garcia.
So a lot of people, to put this in context, will know um, Rodriguez, his name's Jesse, um, because he happens to be the half brother of Joshua um Franco. His given name is Jesse James Rodriguez Franco. So he's the half brother of Franco. He's 20, so he's younger, and he's in the smaller. He's in the general age range division, and he's just a sensationally talented kid. He's 13-0, 9 knockouts. He looks better and better. He hasn't been tested against the top level opposition just yet, but he's passed every test. He's fought twice pardon me, yes, 3 fights this last year, 2 in the bubble. So he has appeared on early undercards, and he looks a lot like his brother Joshua, as a matter of fact, but he's just lightning quick. He's smart. He's super efficient in the ring. Very exciting. Southpaw flyweight. Um, and man, at age, he will turn 21 in about 2 weeks. Um, and it just doesn't appear he has a ceiling yet. So I think he'll get some better tests this next year. I don't think as high as Garcia is on him, I don't think he's in a super big hurry to rush him, especially given his age. Um, and as he perhaps grows a little bit up from flyweight, maybe he is the next torchbearer, as the Estrada, Chocolatito, Rungvisai, Quadras generations sort of start moving on. Rodriguez looks to be the guy on the come up to step into their shoes when those guys decide they're done. And no exaggeration, he is absolutely that talented. So well worth watching, the younger of the Francos, but he goes by Rodriguez.
Some more comments here from the chat. I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the kind words. Saint Brit says, I like this podcast, so for sure was nice and peaceful, just pure boxing talk.
Oh, catch us on another night when we're having it.
I know, right? I know, right?
Yeah, we've all had a nice
don't spill the
break.
don't spill the beans, Gail.
Oh,
Official says exactly they are covering huge number of fights that are overlooked by other boxing podcasts. I appreciate that.
don't worry, Saint
From
Brit.
time to time.
All time great
But
podcast.
you are right, and thank you for
Yes.
noticing. We pay a
Yes.
lot of attention to the smaller weight division fights because there's so much talent there. And for men and women who are smaller athletes, not everyone physically has the DNA to grow up to have the option to play in the NFL and the NBA. If you are a flyweight, if you are 5'5", your options in this world are to make decent money, or to be a jockey, or to get into combat sports. And there's some amazing athletes that don't happen to weigh more than 120 pounds or 140 pounds. And if we look back in boxing, some of the biggest stars have been in those, just at the upper range of the small weight divisions, and we celebrate them here. That's for sure.
And once again, thank you for the kind words. The fight, the Garcia and Ioka wins took place just recently, right? I'm going to go back a couple of weeks because, as I said at the beginning of the show, we took some time off to observe the holidays. Go back to 2 fighters in specific, Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez, and their most recent fights. Golovkin fought on the 18th, Canelo fought on the 19th, right? I'm going to split these fights up. I'm going to you, Daniel, to talk about the Golovkin fight. He fought on the 18th in Florida, making defended his IBF middleweight title for the first time against a fighter by the name of Sarah Menta. Stopped him in, I want to say, seventh round. Basic easy work. Basically, was bowling him all over the place. Knocked him down multiple times during the fight. Again, Sarah Menta. Again, like some like a lot like some fighters that we talked about here. Some opponents related to Bob Hope. No hope, right? Uh, he had no chance, and we all knew that going in. The bigger question to me is for you, Daniel, is in Golovkin's fight before against Deverenchenko, he did look good, right? Uh, he looked like signs of age had crept in. He looked a little slow. Deverenchenko hurt him. He dominated him, in my opinion, in the second half of the fight. And I thought Deverenchenko beat him that night. Uh, in comparison to that, and I put it in context because Sarah Menta is not the caliber opponent that Deverenchenko is. How would you assess Golovkin and how he looked?
That's the tough part. That's the tough part. Like he did what he was supposed to do in that fight. He was supposed to look good. He was supposed to give you technically vintage Triple G, knocking guys out, big drama show. The problem is we knew this Samantha didn't really have anything as far as actual opposition when it came to Golovkin. And that's worrisome because I know Loeffler 360 Promotions, they've tried. I know they've tried to hype it up also on Twitter, trying to say, like, see, this is why Canelo doesn't want to have a third fight with you. But if you want to look at the Canelo trilogy, okay, the first fight, it was a draw. You can argue that you won. You can have that argument. The second fight, he beat you. You can try to argue that it's a draw, but more than likely, he beat you. And unfortunately, because the fight against Derevchenko, there was an argument that can be made that he beat you. So there's a dangerous line, unfortunately, that's going to be told when it comes to Golovkin because if right now with the way it looks, if he gets into a fight with a top, if he gets into the fight with Derevchenko, if he gets in a fight with Jamal, it's not gonna look may not look as good as what we saw in this fight, and that's the worrying sign. Like you did what you're supposed to against a fighter that really stood no chance against you. You're not going to gain any points from that, unfortunately, because what's going to happen when the next contender comes up? Is the age going to creep in again? That's the question. Like nothing told me about this fight other than the fact that it was always one of those rehab fights that you need to have in order to put your name out there.
And in terms of Golovkin, in terms of what's next to him, I'm hearing Eddie Hearn during the holiday break made an argument he would like to see Triple G fight Demetrius Andrade, who holds the WBO title at 160 pounds. I don't see that. I'm hearing more of a fight next between Golovkin and Jaime Munguia. Munguia, former title holder, world title holder at 154 pounds. It'll make for more action. I don't know if Munguia is ready from a technical standpoint, but it'll be an exciting fight. Of course, ultimately he wants Canelo. I don't think he'll get him unless he moves up to 168 pounds. But from where I'm hearing it, there's a possibility of him fighting either Munguia or Andrade. At this point, I'm guessing it'll be Munguia. Uh, it will be Munguia that'll be next for him. I'm going to you, Gail. The following night on the 19th, right? You had Golovkin fight on the 18th. On the 19th, you had Canelo fight Callum Smith. Uh, Turned out to be a unification bout. The WBC being what they are, uh, designated this fight being for the vacant WBC title after David Benavidez was stripped for him not making weight in his last fight. Canelo won, and Canelo it was like slow death the way he broke him down. He didn't knock him out, but he gave him sufficient beating. Um, his right arm looked an ugly. His left arm, excuse me, looked an ugly mess as Canelo hit him, pounding him with punches and hooks after hooks. His left arm looked twice the size of his right arm. Uh, Callum Smith, he was there. He was tough. He was durable, but he lost, and he lost clearly. Your thoughts on Canelo following following this fight?
Apologies to any of the British fans watching who were super excited and hopeful for a good performance here. Wow, it just didn't happen. You know, Luke Campbell lost with more dignity, even though he was knocked out, than Callum Smith was. Canelo's victory over Callum Smith was the equivalent of tying him to the bumper of his truck and dragging him around for an hour or two versus just putting him out of his misery. It was ugly. It was rough. There was no relief. Callum was little threat to Canelo, and Canelo made great use of the height. Canelo used Smith's height against him, landed some dandy uppercuts. It's really been the year of the uppercut in boxing, in 2020 was so interesting to me. And we've started to see more of that continuing into 2021 as guys get inside. I love it as an inside tool. Love seeing it come back. Having said that, Canelo dominated. Give the man credit. I know there are people who love Canelo. There are people who hate Canelo. There's really nobody lukewarm about him. But everyone has got to give him credit for being incredibly hardworking. He trains like a beast. He's constantly in the gym. And despite having been this at 15 years, he still seems to be finding things to learn. His defensive upper body movement in this fight was just incredible to watch. Cal Smith is not the fastest guy in the world. So, there was a little bit of that, seeing that punch coming, slowed down as if Canelo was the one in the Matrix, borrowing a little tool out of Lomachenko's toolkit, since apparently he isn't using it lately. But it just looked phenomenal. And you have a hard time thinking of many guys who could get in the ring with Canelo and provide him a real challenge. Now, the one on everybody's lips is, shall we all say it together? Better BF. People would love to see a beast like that coming at Canelo. I think he'd have a really hard time landing the right punch on him. Canelo's defense has gotten that good, but it's certainly a competitive fight. I think the guy that would give Canelo the most trouble, and it wouldn't be the most thrilling fight, would be Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, remember him? He hasn't been in the ring in something like 16, 19 months. It's a crazy thing. Bivol is such a good technician, so skilled. He very rarely makes any mistakes in the ring. He doesn't take a tremendous amount of risks either. So he'd be a real puzzle to Canelo. But at 168, I just don't see anybody touching him. I do think a Benavidez fight would be a hell of a good time. I don't see Benavidez winning. But, anybody who's got somebody else other than Canelo at the top of the pound for pound list, I think there's an argument there. I think that's a hard one to deny. And he's certainly the biggest draw in boxing, and he did nothing but help himself with that great performance over Smith.
I'll go read some. I'm reading some comments here, and I'll just put them in public for everybody. Comments from the YouTube chat. Saint Britt said, and I'll go back to what he said. He said, excuse me, wrong comment. He said Smith was useless. It was easy work. I agree. Natty says that Canelo needs to fight Benavidez or Charlo. I would throw Andre in there as well. He's been wanting a fight badly with him. He wanted a fight with Canelo at 154. He's moved up to 160 to try to get a fight with Canelo. Is not happening. I think he stated he's willing to move up to 168 to fight him. Um, Say what you want about Andre. I think he deserves the shot and he wants it bad. As does Charlo, who's also said he'll move up to 168 pounds to fight him. And Benavidez not only says that he wants to fight him, he already has a plan. He also has stated there's a plan to beat him and tried to detail it in interviews during the break. And St. Britt has said Bivol as well as a good opponent. Um, and Natty says that last but not least, Canelo can't beat Andrade. Give some details on that in the chat, Natty. Why do you feel that way? And your thoughts on Natty's comments about Canelo can't beat Andrade.
I think Andre would be a good opponent for him, but I'm just not sure Andre has the killer instinct necessary to come after Canelo, and I don't think Canelo would see him as a threat. Um, I don't think it'd be a bad fight. I wouldn't hate it, and God knows Andrade has been making a lot of noise. But if Canelo doesn't fight Billy Joe Saunders next, Saunders and Andrade's the fight I'd like to see. And I do think that'd be an interesting fight because they've both had great moments and they've both had major stinker performances that they won, but just not a fight anybody would want to see again. So you always ask yourself, which version of these guys is going to show up? Well, if they show up against each other, one of them's got to show out. So that's why I'd like to see them do it.
And shout out to What You Need in the chat, who's also said that Andrade needs to face Saunders. True, but when they had the opportunity to fight, uh, Saunders,
Yep.
he effed it up. So is it a case of Andrade needing to fight Saunders or Saunders need to fight Andrade?
Yep.
Or was it
And
more to the point where Saunders just needs to get his act right and be consistent and stay consistent?
Well, if one of them wants the Canelo sweepstakes, they better straighten up. 2020, tick tock. It's 2021. The clock's ticking, boys.
Yeah, I would probably say between the two, more than likely, Andrade needs to fight because he's been out of the ring longer than Saunders. But the problem is they both self-sabotage so spectacularly that I don't think there's going to be a chance to have this fight, unfortunately. Now, the other opponents, that's going to be interesting to me when it comes into Andrade, because a lot of at least the tools when it comes to length, when it comes to the height difference that you would have with Andrade, you technically gave a little those big things towards Callum in this fight. The problem is that this is to me the main thing that probably sticks in a lot of things with Canelo when I compare him to some fighters, especially fighters that are proficient on defense. They keep looking like they are talking about the Canelo that lost to Floyd in many ways. Somebody that if you get flustered him with footwork, that it'll be done and you will be able to berate him. That's not the case. That's not the case anymore. Like that's not been the case for the past 3 or 4 years. So at the end of the day, there's always fights to go around. Personally, I would love to see Benavidez. I would like to see Benavidez because Benavidez probably right now, based on youth, is probably the guy that's most ready, at least in that upper weight class, to take the mantle from Canelo. He has that thing in him. He just has to stay of China White. He just has to stay away from that.
Going to read some more comments here. And um, Lisa asks, why won't anyone fight Andrade? St. Brit Sports says that Andrade brings nothing to the table and is terrible to watch. If you want to say that, so does Billy Joe Saunders, and says that says for a lot of fighters as well.
That
Um,
pretty much sums it up right there. Yeah, he's not a
and
draw. Doesn't bring an
and
audience at
um,
all.
and Natty Turner says too much. He explained his position, his reasoning. Too much speed, athleticism, and sneaky power. Canelo seems to have reservations about that fight by calling a fight with him boring. I can't say you're wrong. I can't say you're wrong in that because there are fights out because Canelo has not been too keen about wanting to fight him. Why I don't know. He could say it's boring, or the real reason that he sees something in him that could in Andrade that says he may pose some difficulty for me. Either way, it's going to be interesting in the end. What Canelo decides to do. He did a ring. He did a interview. He did an interview over the holiday break. I wrote about it today for 3kingsboxing.com. You can check it out on 3kingsboxing.com, where Canelo says he intends to um, his intentions is to unify the titles and become undisputed champion at 168 pounds. That's why, Lisa, to your question about Triple G and Canelo, uh, that should answer your question. Canelo is willing to fight him, but it's going to be on his demands, how on his terms, right? And part of those terms are if the fight is going to happen, it's going to happen at 168 because he has said he's not campaigning at 160 pounds anymore. So if Golovkin wants to fight, he's going to have to move up. And again, 2021, he says he wants to collect all the belts at 168 pounds. Will he? You don't know. It's just speculation at this point. But again, 2021 should be very very interesting for one Canelo. Let's move on. And since we got all the fights out the way, let's give a breakdown of boxing in 2020, marred by the COVID-19 pandemic. The sport was shut down uh, for a good chunk of the year here, at least stateside. Is being shut down again to start 2021 in England, as I think Boris Johnson has basically uh, either today or yesterday called for a complete break, a shutdown in England right now. So things are not looking good over there on that side of the pond. Um, the sport has picked up, but the sport has been forever changed. Empty venues for the most part. The Garcia fight, the Spence fight had some people in attendance, but nothing close to full capacity. Temperature checks, COVID testing, contact tracing all around for fighters and anyone in attendance, managers, promoters, even people who were calling the fight and whatnot. This pandemic has had a lasting imprint on the sport, and I don't think it'll be the same again. That being said, um, that being said, we did see some fights and we did see some impactful moments. And let's kind of give a breakdown of the year of the sport for 2020. Um, let's start with men's fighter of the year. I'll go to you, Daniel. Uh, your we're going to break this down between men and women just to be fair because there is women's boxing and women's boxing is worthy of our attention and all y'all attention to be serious boxing fans. Your male fighter for 2020, Daniel.
I would have to go with Teofimo Lopez because he did the thing that nobody thought. Well, not a lot of people thought. I did, but for different reasons. But he did the thing that nobody thought he was going to be able to do, which is beat somebody that was trying already being propped up, being hailed top pound for pound fighter, probably top all time fighter in Lomachenko. And remember, the way he did it was most impressive. It wasn't a situation where he didn't try to bum rush Loma, although I think that's what Loma's team expected. He outboxed him for the first half of the fight. And even in the times where Loma did stun him, he responded well. And say what you want. Yeah, the WBC posed some chicanery trying to make him the undisputed champion, but he has, by all technical accounts, 3 of the 4 major belts. And there's nothing to stop him from going after the WBC belt. Go after the winner of Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Like the Haney fight would be outstanding because those two have been talking smack at each other for months now. Months. And it would be fitting. Lopez, though, Lopez versus Ryan Garcia is a very, very interesting fight because it'll be West Coast, Southern California Mexican versus East Coast, Northeast Honduran from Brooklyn. That's the path that we're looking into. But Lopez more than earned that stripe. Like hopefully, like I said, no move to 140. Defend all the belts at once. Don't do this and mistake as Bud.
I'll get my pick right now. For me, it's Fury. Um, the fact that no, no, I'm gonna take that back. For me, it's Tanaka because the coast for me it's not Tanaka. For me, it's Ioka, Kazuto Ioka, the fighter we just recapped earlier in the show. You know why? Um, because of the caliber of fighter that he defeated in Tanaka. Tanaka is no joke. Tanaka's resume is solid. Three-time world champion in 3 divisions. Um, highly skilled, highly accomplished, can do a bit of everything, like I said earlier in the show. And he he got this. He didn't just get lose. He got this in his own way. He got dismantled. I was going to say Tyson Fury before, for the way that he annihilated Deontay Wilder, exposed him, pumped him, bullied him on the night. But um, for me, it's going to be what have you done for me lately? What we just saw, and just could not be more impressed. But from what I saw from Kazuta Ioka over a fighter the caliber of a Kosei Tanaka. So this is spur of the moment decision for me. I'm making Kazuta Ioka my 2020 fighter of the year. Your pick, Gail.
I like the fact we got some diversity on this list. For me, it came down to either Fury or Teofimo Lopez Jr. And the nod to me went to Lopez. He's only 23 years old, and yet he took out arguably a guy in his opponent, highest rated of the 3 fighters we just named. Lomachenko was, depending on what list you looked at, in the top 3 pound for pound, rated far higher than the equivalent by Wilder or Tanaka. And to do it that young, to step forward and take the chance, to dare himself to be great, and then deliver a very smart, nuanced performance. For me, he gets the nod. I admit Fury was a close second for me. Um, I, while I loved the Ioka and Tanaka fight, I'm not sure it launches Ioka into the category that either Fury or Lopez was in. But I look back and think, thank God we're even having this discussion, because there was a point around late March or April, our only choice would have been Fury because we wouldn't have had any other fights. So I'm very grateful we're having this discussion.
Um, Next category, since we talked about male fighter of the year, let's talk about the women's fighter of the year. I'll go to you, Gail. Your choice is women's fighter of the year for 2020.
Well, and this this individual, to me, is also a candidate for upset of the year among all fighters, and it's got to be Jessica McCaskill for her defeat, her surprising defeat of the number one pound for pound ranked woman in boxing and the first lady of boxing, Cecilia Brækhus. It was a very close fight. There are people arguing that Brækhus won, but the fact is McCaskill did it. She took it to her. She's greatly improved the last couple of years. She's really devoted herself to the sport, and it paid off. So for me, although there are other candidates, and Katie Taylor's ever present, there were some other British fighters that looked good this year, but got to go to McCaskill.
I would also agree with McCaskill. I was thinking initially Katie Taylor because of the rematch win that she had with Pearson in her last fight. She looked sensational, but you got to give it to McCaskill, even though I thought that Brækhus did enough to earn the victory. Yet and still, McCaskill was a champion at 140, unified champion at 140, to move up to 147 and get the decision over a woman who's been an undisputed champion for how many years now? Has been a world champion for over a decade. A woman who's regarded by some as the still the top pound for pound women's fighter in the world. Uh, as good as Katie Taylor was in 2020, I cannot, uh, uh, I cannot. I have to give it to McCaskill. I'll go to you, Daniel. Your women's fighter of the year for 2020.
We had to make it unanimous. To me, it is McCaskill because Gayle described the gravity. What she did in defeating Brækhus was in many ways equal to how Fury beat Klitschko. Just to remember that he ended a decades-long run from down Klitschko. Yeah, he didn't do it in a way that was aesthetically pleasing, but he did it. And it was a surprise, too. Not a lot of people gave Tyson Fury that much of a shot to do it. It was the same thing happening here with McCaskill. Not a lot of people gave her a shot. And she pulled it out. Like, it was a close fight. Because when you're fighting somebody that caliber like Cecilia Brækhus, it's going to be that type of. But that's probably going to be the hallmark 23. I know Katie Taylor, she avenged her fight, but she did many ways what she's supposed to do. Not a lot of people gave McCaskill a shot. And I think from my understanding, I think they're going to do a rematch, but that's going to be a rematch you want to see.
We talked about the men's and women's fighter of the year. Let's talk about the fight of the year. For me, this is pretty obvious. Baranchyk and Zepeda. Sheer violence. Knockdowns galore. This was outside of boxing ring. Somebody would have been arrested for felony assault. It was both vainglorious and scary at the same time. I think it was 4 knockdowns. I think it was 8 knockdowns total or something to that effect. The way that Zepeda put Baranchyk down and out in the end, that shit was scary. Pure gore. Borderline obscene in terms of again how violent it was. I don't care if it was not. If I don't care if it was just a regular 10, 12 round bout with no world title on the line. That was just the definition of vicious scale. Your thoughts? Could it be any other choice for fight of the year other than Baranchyk and Zepeda?
You'd have to make a really, really strong case, and I think you'd struggle to make any other fight the fight of the year. Certainly the Wilder Fury 2 rematch shook up the glamour division of boxing. It was a very impactful fight. It made a ton of money. It, when the heavyweight division is healthy, all of boxing is healthy. We've heard all that before. But come on, what fight got you standing up out of your seat going, oh my God, I don't believe what I just saw, more often in 5 rounds than that fight? 8 knockdowns officially, and we all know there was a 9th that didn't get called, not being greedy or anything, but 9 knockdowns, back and forth drama. And yeah, it was only a 10-round fight. But yeah, these two guys gave their all with no belt on the line, not a main event, no big promotion, no big purses. They earned every single penny they were paid, and double or triple whatever that was. It was just phenomenal. And neither of them was going to give it an inch until somebody finally just slammed the door. And, right up to the end, you could have flipped a coin. In this case, it happened to be Zepeda. It seems like both of them managed to get out of the fight without any permanent damage, at least none that's immediately apparent. You don't want to see guys fight like that every single fight at length for a career, just for their own safety. But this one, wow, those are the fights that everybody's talking about that night and the next day. And we're still talking about January 2021. Absolutely as entertaining as boxing can get.
I'll go back to some recent comments here before I go to Daniel in terms of our discussion about Fighter of the Year, Natty Turner. He makes the argument that Errol Spence Jr. should be the Fighter of the Year. Lisa says that she agrees that it has to be Jessica McCaskill as a Women's Fighter of the Year. Says she was shocked because she was shocked because she had picked
Lisa, who did
getting into the fight.
I mean, who didn't?
In the discussion about Teofimo Lopez being the Fighter of the Year, Natty says that Loma was fighting outside of his weight class. He looked vulnerable against Campbell, Pedraza, and Linares, and finally, and Lisa says she agrees that's not his best weight, and Natty says finally his argument for Spence is that Spence came back from cheating death to beat up a top 3 or 4 welterweight in his first fight back. I'll go back to you, Daniel, before any of you. I'll go back to you, Daniel, for your comments in terms of Fight of the Year, and if any of you guys want to respond to the comments in the chat, please do.
I'll respond first to Natty when it came to Loma. I've said it for years. I agree. I've said it for the moment in lightweight, like it's a plateau division. Like you knew 130 was probably going to be his best division, but I know why he did it when it came to it. But when I mentioned the Campbell fight, the knockdown against Linares, somebody was going to catch him. That's why when the Lopez fight was made, I picked Lopez because I said, you know what? He's going to catch somebody, and Lopez may have the power to do it. And he proved me right, but he proved me right for different reasons. Now, another unanimous thing, like I called Varanchik Zepeda as I was watching the fight. This was boxing's makeup for the pandemic. Pretty much just out and out violence. I'm like the level. Hopefully there won't be too much damage because we have to remember that we can't really detect CTE until somebody's dead. But the level of violence that we saw in that fight, and we have to remember Varanchik did similar thing I think 2019, 2018 too, and a showbox card where it was just violence from him. It was a really good fight, and it's a fight that I would rewatch over and over again. But I do hope that those two guys don't face each other again because I want them to live.
Oh God, no.
I want to see Varanchik at welterweight to see what he can do. I want to see what he can do. He does pretty well over 40.
Oh
He
God,
just needs
no!
to
In
work on
terms
his
of them two
defense.
fighting again.
But could you imagine?
No, not them two fighting again. I don't want to see nobody die in the ring.
Yeah, one fight a year, one fight a career Like is
That's why I said.
plenty.
That's why I said. Hopefully,
I'm
we
good
won't.
with one.
Yeah,
Now, let me weigh in on the comment about Spence being the fighter of the year. Yeah, I don't think that is a performance at that level. However, I do think you can make a good case for Spence being the comeback fighter of the year, certainly for having rehabbed himself from whatever injuries he suffered. Um, After his car accident. We think we know what they were, but we don't. The only one who probably really knows is Derek James. And let's throw in Derek James as trainer of the year while we're at it, for not only what he did with Spence, but what he did with Charlo. So it's been a good year for all those guys. A shortened year, pandemic year, they still managed to get in the ring, get seen, and get it done.
Indeed, indeed. Let's move on to another category here. Um, Fight of the year, knockout of the year. Let's go to prospect of the year. I'll go to you, Daniel. We saw a lot of Edgar Berlanga in the second half of the year. Him getting touted a lot by ESPN and by the folks at Top Rank. There are other publications out there who named him fighter of the year, prospect of the year. Excuse me. I'm gonna tell you right now, he's not mine. But given that backdrop, who is your 2020 prospect of the year?
I didn't have. Well, unfortunately, because the pandemic, we didn't have a lot to look. So I would have to agree when it comes to, as far as when you think of what a prospect is. I would have to agree in terms of Berlanga, as far as excitement, as far as what the value he's going to bring, because if you watch his fight, you're gonna catch fireworks, and especially now with what happened with Verdejo, he might be the guy now that Puerto Rico reps the flag around to be the heir to Tito in many ways. And you saw Tito even hype it up himself, taking pictures with him. So I would say Berlinga, but we just had to see how he's going to look when he steps up against real competition, because hopefully it's not a Wilder situation where it's just selective matchmaking up to the near top.
I go to you, Gail. Your prospect of the year for 2020.
What prospect of the year is to me there's a little bit of an eye test involved with this. Once they've proven themselves, they move beyond prospect. So, given the eye test, given the excitement, what's going on outside the ring does have a bearing. What's going on inside of the ring, I have to go with Edgar Berlanga. I'm not going to resist it. He looks like he's got all the tools. The kid does need to go rounds. He knows it. And Top Rank needs to put him in with guys who can get him there, who could stand up against him. They actually did think that was going to happen with Ulysses Sierra, who'd never been dropped, let alone in the first round, which was his final fight of the year. So that kind of pushed it over the edge for me. I would be tempted to name Bam Rodriguez, but he hasn't had enough fights at a high enough level for me to get him even to prospect status. But that's my early prediction for 2021. But for now, I'm going to go ahead with Berlanga. And he got people talking, including casual fans. Folks, those of us who are hardcore and degenerates, we have our certain standards, but this stuff is just great for boxing.
I'm going outside the country here with my pick. I'm going outside the U.S. I'm going outside North America. My 2020 prospect of the year, and we've talked about him on Pound Box Report a few months back. Dennis McCann, um, tall, super talented, quick, very
Interesting.
quick and powerful. Bantamweight, 5 foot 5'10" ish. maybe a little bit taller. Shout out to Gus. Shout out to Unrivaled Boxing. They talked about him on the show um, in 2020. They kind of put me onto him. I've seen him fight. I've seen videos of him. I've seen him in sparring, right? And I think he's destined to be a world champion, not just in one weight, but in more than one weight. I think he's that good. Um, I wouldn't be surprised 18 to 24 months from now, he wins a world title at either 118 or 122 pounds. I think he's that good.
Yep.
So for
Good
me, here
choice.
to talk
Good
about
choice.
Berlanga, I hear the choice for Berlanga, but I think McCann is overall better skilled. He does more things than Berlanga in terms of. I think he has more overall ability. It's just that Berlanga punches hard as hell, right? But in terms of just pure boxing skill, coupled with power, coupled with the pizzazz outside of the ring, for me, it's Dennis McCann. He's my 2020 Fighter of the Year. Um, that's you hinted at this at your possible choice with us. Let's go to Trainer of the Year. I'm going back to you, Gail.
As I mentioned, to me, this is a slam dunk. It really is. Derek James had a great year um, with with Charlo and with Spence Jr. And we really don't know. I'm going to repeat this. We do not know what the extent of the damage was to Spence, not just physically, but psychologically. James, no doubt, played a critical role bringing him back. He had to manage his fighters through the pandemic. That was not easy for any trainer. So he's always been, in the top names. And a lot of guys had great years. At this point, the Reynosos are sort of candidates every year at this point, and they're only adding to their stable. It used to be that their main calling card was Canelo, but now they've got Ryan Garcia. We didn't get to see Oscar Valdez, unfortunately, but he's working with them. They have Frank Sanchez now in their stable as well. Um, you've always got some of the perennial guys that are out there. Andre Rozier always gets a nod. Robert Garcia always gets a nod, but I think Derek James is well deserved honoree this year.
Read a couple of comments here in the chat. In terms of, I'm guessing you saying prospect of the year. Natty, you says Boots. You say Boots Ennis. I would say that Boots has graduated from prospect to contender. He's world ranked in terms of the sanctioning bodies right now. Um, in another year or so, I think he's on the verge of fighting for a world title. I think he's made that progression from prospect to contender. I think Lisa says Big Baby Anderson, her choice for prospect of the year. Uh, uh, Official scorecard boxing says that either Derek James or Ismail Salas. For those who do not know, Salas is
Yeah, Salas is a
boy.
good choice.
He's the guy who trains Ioka and other fighters. Um, I think he's the one who drew the blueprint, excuse me, in terms of how to beat Tanaka, and what he's done with Tanaka ever since his loss to Nietes in 2018, I believe it was. Um, Ioka has took the next step in his career. He really has, and become a wonderful fighter under the tutelage of Ismail Salas. So that's a good choice. And Lisa also, she agrees with you, Gail, that Derek James is the trainer of the year. I'll go to you, Daniel. Uh, um, do you agree? Derek James, the 2020 Trainer of the Year.
Given what he's had to work with, yes. And like the easy choice would be the Reynoso. Easy choice would be the Reynosos because of what their stable has done. But like we mentioned, that they're gonna be perennial trainers of the year no matter what. Considering what Derek James had to deal with as far as one of his top fighters going into it, and having to work on a guy rebuild his confidence throughout the year, it's pretty astounding to what you need to do, and it does shake off a little bit of the questions that you have when it comes into nostalgia. not stature. When it comes into doubt, it shakes off a lot of that rust. So I am in agreement there. Although if somebody says Salas or somebody says Reynoso's, you have every right to, because there really isn't much of a debate at that point.
I would have to make it unanimous here that Derek James, and the thing about him, he doesn't have a deep stable of fighters, um, but the results he's gained that's come from Charlo coming off that loss to uh, um, Harrison, defeats him in the rematch, and just took apart Rosario to unify uh, uh, two of the belts at 100 and at 154 pounds, and in terms of the work with Errol Spence specifically, coming back from the accident, kind of had to reconstruct everything in terms of what he had, reconstruct everything in terms of Spence from a physical and technical standpoint. Because when he had that accident last year, you didn't know whether he was going to fight again, and for him to make it all the way back, look very good in the fight against Garcia. Um, yeah, for me, I have to make it a unanimous here. 2020 Trainer of the Year goes to one Derek James. I added a new category in the private chat. Gayle and Daniel, I'm going to you on this one. Um, Comeback Fighter of the Year.
Well, I mentioned that a little earlier. Errol Spence Jr. is a great candidate for this award, and I saw him on many lists. I will say on my published lists, I named Roman Gonzalez as the comeback fighter of the year. He was all but left for washed up, done, gone. And he has gotten himself a new trainer, gotten over some major defeats and disappointments in his life, the loss of his lifelong trainer, which clearly had affected him. And he is now in a position for a rematch some of us have been waiting for 8+ years versus Gallo Estrada, which is happening in March. I can't wait. Please, COVID, do not cancel that damn fight. I did pick Roman Gonzalez, but if you've got Errol Spence as comeback of the year, I don't hate you for it. Both really good candidates.
Actually, you fall right in line with the head of Three Kings Boxing, Prodigy, aka Prodigy of Boxing Talk, aka 2K. Three Kings Boxing. We did our kind of awards deal for awards for 2020, and the Three Kings Boxing choice for comeback fighter of the year was in fact Roman Gonzalez, and I can understand why, um, given where he's come from. Really since 2017, the way he's had to rebuild things after getting splattered by Sri Sakat. Um, he was in the cut. He fought a couple of times in non-distinct fights, once in Japan, and I think in another place where people he didn't get a lot of coverage, and to just kind of spring from the ashes, if you will, um, beating Yafai, stopping him, and has had a follow up defense in 2020, which has led to uh, what hopes. Let's hope again it happens. Fingers crossed. A rematch against Gallo March 13th. I can't. There's no locale has been announced, but the fight is going to happen. Uh, to get back to the quote unquote top, if you will, speaks to the character of Chocolatito and his willingness to overcome. And you're right, official boxing in the YouTube chat. Joe Joyce, Ishmael Salas is also the trainer of one Joe Joyce. So thanks for mentioning that. I'll go to you, Daniel. Your comeback fighter of the year for 2020.
I would have to say I would have to say Spence because, like I said, of what he's coming back from. Like Chocolatito in the conventional sense makes sense because he's coming back from in ring struggles. But Spence is coming back from a situation where we didn't really think he was going to fight again. And that is really telling. I'm still in the opinion of that he needed a tune-up fight before he fought Garcia, because like to me, Spence at 100% knocks out Garcia, knocks him out. But he showed poise. He didn't show much of hesitation in that fight with Garcia, and ultimately, like I said, he still has kept this mantle of being one of the top two welterweights in the division. Because what do we start talking about after this? We're still talking about him versus Bud. Whenever that happens, we know it's going to have to involve somebody leaving a promoter, but that is what falls into it. Because to come back from something where you legitimately could have been dead, or you legitimately would not have been able to fight again from a physical standpoint, let alone the mental trauma that you have to go through. He's earned it. He's earned the comeback fighter of the year. Although, like, I have to give a tap off to Gayle as well. That's it. Chocolatito's a good runner-up.
I think we're going to have to make this a unanimous once again. I have to go with Errol Spence here. As I just stated that when he had that accident in 2019, I think it was October. Um, we didn't know if he was going to fight again. Um, and if you saw the site of that accident, you wonder how in the hell if you saw the accident video of it, you wonder how the hell he survived. It was an unknown about him for months. For him to come back in the manner he did, look good as he did against Garcia, looked like it wasn't no real slippage. He looked like same old Errol Spence, right? And that's awfully impressive to his dedication, to his willingness to do what he has to do, and the fact that he came back and first fight in over a year, he decided he wanted to go to. He decided give me Garcia, top five welterweight. Uh, Very very impressive. So from that vantage point, I have to agree with you, Gayle and Daniel. Errol Spence, comeback fighter of the year for 12020. Last category here, bold predictions for 2021. 2020 has been hellish on the sport and really on society as a loss. As Daniel said at the beginning of the show, thank God it's over. And hope springs eternal for 2021 in lives in general, in boxing specific. So I'm going to give you three, starting with you, Daniel. Your three bold predictions for box for the sport in 2021.
Well, prediction: Fury and Joshua will not fight. I just have a feeling that something bad is going to happen. Either litigation with Wilder will get pretty heated and get stuck, or Joshua gives up the WBO title, which is looking very likely now, and then Fury loses interest because it's not going to longer going to be undisputed. That's first one. Second means to me the second main prediction, because of economics, you're going to see another cross platform pay-per-view. It'll it'll either be more like the ESPN and the Zone. Get together. It'll be what card? It'll be a decent fight. It could even be Garcia versus Lopez in Madison Square Garden. But that would probably be the two ones that I'd be able to do. And the third one, this one's to me, that's probably going to What do you think about the third one? And this I'm gonna throw it to the women's game. Either Clarissa Shields or Amanda Serrano are gonna hold boxing titles and MMA titles at the same time.
Like that one.
Yeah, I like that one too. I like that last one. Yeah, that's going out there, but you can see it. You could very
No,
well see it
I
happen for
see
those who,
that. I like that a lot.
yeah, for those who do not know, Clarissa Shields has been for the last couple months, I'd say. She announced that she was going to venture into MMA, and there's if you check out her Instagram, in particular, there's footage of her training in the octagon and whatnot. So yeah, that's a that last one in particular is very very good. I go to you, Gail, and shout out and thank you, salute greatness. Appreciate the kind comments from salute greatness and YouTube channel. Love this channel. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button and if you hadn't already, make sure you subscribe. I go to you, Gail. Your three bold predictions for the Sweet Science in 2021.
Hey, thank you for that compliment. Great chatters tonight. Damn, I'm impressed. Um, I think we will see Joshua and Fury, but I think it's going to the Middle East. I don't think it's going to take place in the UK. So I think they're going to take the money, which is a shame for the fans, but I do think we're going to get that fight at the end of the year. I also think we're going to get, don't hate me, I'm just the messenger, okay? I'm just the messenger. Pacquiao and McGregor. I'm sorry. I think we're going to get it again.
Oh God.
I'm not saying I love it. Money talks. What can we say? And I'm going to give you a bonus. I think we're also going to see a Legends Tyson Holyfield fight. I think it's inevitable. I really do. Um, and I think our U.S. Olympic boxing team, remember everybody, the Olympics is supposed to take place this year in Tokyo late in the summer. I think this year's boxing team will bring home more medals than our Olympic team has brought home in many decades, probably since I'm trying to think of our last really big powerhouse team. Maybe since the team that De La Hoya was on. I think they're going to perform extremely well.
Oh wow. Oh wow. I like that. Uh how can I put this? Three bold predictions. One,
Interesting,
Crawford
yeah.
will leave Aram and be it. Crawford will leave Aram and sign a deal with PBC by the end of the year. Um, Two, I agree with Gail. We will see Joshua and Fury fight, and will not be in England. Just the situations with the pandemic right now. It's not going to happen. A new strand of the virus has popped up over there. Precautions all over, not just England, but the United Kingdom in general. I don't see it happening there. Middle East, more likely, they'll put up the money and they will find a safer place to have it. Prediction number three. Prediction number three. Prediction number three. How can I prediction number three? Prediction number three. We will see Ioka fight the winner of Roman and Estrada in in the U.S. in the U.S. on the zone, and it'll be the fight of the year for 2021.
Oh, are you going to go out on a limb and say whether it's going to be Gallo or Chocolatito?
No, I'm not going
No.
there.
I will. And as much as I am an admirer of Gonzalez, I think Estrada's going to win that fight.
I'm leaning towards Estrada, but I'm not. I am. I'm leaning. I'm leaning pretty heavily, but I'm not gonna go out on a limb and just boldly say he's gonna defeat him. So, uh, uh, I just want to see the fight finally, and I'm glad that it's finally happening. Fingers crossed. Let's hope nothing happens and nothing. All precautions are dealt with outside of the ring, so that we can finally see it, and they finally give a location for the fight. 'Cause, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, The Zone. So yeah.
I think
So,
we're talking either Texas or Mexico. And I think the pandemic gets to make the call.
I was gonna say, uh, Chocolatito willing to fight him in Mexico.
Well, they're going to have to put the fight
Mm.
somewhere, and if they can't best, I think they might.
No,
And they're using that studio setting
I,
Azteca.
I
So
I wouldn't say. I would probably.
TV Azteca, not Azteca Stadium, by the way. I'll be clarified that.
Yeah. Yeah, but wouldn't it? But the thing is, like I said, that's gonna
But they
be a the
can't do it
zone
in the
fight.
UK, and
So the zone would
right now
probably
they
win charge.
cannot
I
do it
could
in
actually see
California. So where are they going to do it?
that fight. No,
I mean, their
no, no,
choices are limited.
no. That's why I say I would
I think
probably
there's a little
pick
bit of
a
lag
neutral
on
site,
the
a site where
part of
you're not gonna
Daniel
have.
Gail, so I'm going to give him a
I
little
would
bit of time to make his comment.
no. No. What I would say is, depending on, like I said, if there's no delays and considering it'll be March, hmm, why not up here? There's at least two or three casinos that are already set up for pub. There's the Mohegan Sun, which I think it's been the one that PBC has been using.
I
So there's plenty of ones up here, and not to mention that. Again, ah, I think we lost audio, but that's what I might thinking of. Either up here, because yeah, Southern Cali's not an option. I don't think we're not going to see any events in Southern Cali probably for the next 9 months. The way this is looking.
Here's a fourth prediction bonus. Um, the Charlo at 154 pounds, he becomes an undisputed junior middleweight champion of the world.
Well, I'd like to see him get there. I mean, in the doing of it, that'd be damned entertaining.
Was it Maul is at 154, right? Or Mel? No, Mel.
Yeah,
Mel is at 154 pounds.
No,
Jermel is the
Mel,
smaller.
yeah,
That's
he will
154.
become um he will become he will become boxing's only undisputed champion in 2021.
Ooh, that is a prediction to end the show on. Little tip for everybody. I know sometimes why did
Okay.
Mama
So
name
you're
both
saying
those
that
twins something so close together? Here's the trick to always remembering who's who. You've got Jermal with an A, Jermel with an E. Jermal is the A guy, the bigger guy. That's how you remember.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Daniel?
That's going to be interesting. That means, Mike, from your understanding, then that means, from what I understand, then that means you're saying that either Lopez or Joshua is going to drop a belt.
I don't think Lopez is going to fight Haney, one, not this year. Two, I think that Joshua may well indeed give up the WBO title. He'll sacrifice it to fight Fury.
Agree on both.
Because Haney, because Lopez is talking about Haney, and quite frankly, excuse my
You know
language
that
here,
means, though, if they say it.
I think Lopez is talking about Haney. Excuse my language here, he's bullshitting when it comes to a fight with Haney. I don't think he's really serious about fighting him. He's talking about. I don't think he's serious. Or well, he's talking. Well, I'm the man now, and it's gonna be on my terms, and blah 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 blah. He's bullshitting in terms of a fight with Haney. I don't think he really wants to fight him unless he gets paid a whole lot. Um, and because of that, he's gonna mess around, and Haney's gonna fight Garcia, and that's gonna be that. And if Garcia beats Haney, then he'll shoot for Tank. If put it this way, Haney and Garcia will fight. The winner will fight Tank, and Lopez will be on the other side of the street at with the belts at 135 pounds. But Garcia, Tank, and Haney will be making all of the moves that people will pay attention to regarding lightweight.
That's interesting because I think, to me, Tank is going to be the one that's going to be in the outside looking in because, like I said, Oscar and Bob can work together. Eddie and Bob work with Oscar in that area. I don't see any of them willingly work with Heyman. They'll work with Heyman if they have no other choice. And unfortunately, Lisa, that looks to be the case. But what that also means, if Joshua drops the WBO belt, the fight coming up between Joseph Parker and Junior Fa become for that belt. And remember, that's how Parker got the belt the first time, and that's how he could get a rematch with Joshua.
True, and says Lisa's in the chat says she says she hopes Joshua doesn't drop the belt. The problem is when money's on the line, anything can happen. Two, in terms of the vacant WBO title, um, I could see Frank Warren, Finagle, and Joe Joyce sitting there to fight Joseph Parker for the belt, and Junior Fa would just be left outside the loop. Just saying, just saying, and I think we're going to end things on that note because I think we're dealing with a little bit of lag here, and plus the show is closing in on 2 hours, which is pretty lengthy. Um, I want to thank everybody in the chat because yeah, this is a lot of activity. I want to thank Lisa. I want to thank Salute Greatness. I want to thank official scorecard boxing science. I want to thank Natty Turner again, the Blackbird Sugar this YouTube shit. Um, I want to thank What You Need. Been a while since I've heard from you, bro. Saint Brit Sports. Um, who else? Who else? Fink Art of Boxing. Um, somebody earlier. Oh, Coup d'etat. Shout out to the fellas from Coup d'etat Boxing. They have an excellent channel over there. They have their shows on weekends. They did a show today breaking down Ioka's win over Tanaka. They did a lengthy preview of the fight. I chimed in there and made a little comments here and there in terms of that fight. I think we were all wrong. We were wrong on all parties, but give a shout out to Ioka again, a masterful performance. Who else? Who else? Olaf the Almighty. So I want to thank everybody in their comments in the chat. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for your comments lasting on the show. Uh, um, Again, thank you for the comments. I got to have you back again on the show soon in 2021. If you like, for those who checking us out live on YouTube, if you like what you heard of, once again, please make sure to hit that like button. Please make sure to subscribe. If you check us out later on iTunes, Spotify, any other podcast platform, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. On iTunes specifically, please make sure to leave a comment, 5-star review will get read on the show. Same thing on Spotify. I'm going to go around the panel here. Begin the show with ladies first, always end the show with ladies first as well. Gail from Community Digital News, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk Dancing with the Stars, The Bachelor, media,
Oh,
because we
hell
do
no.
teach media.
I'm not
Oh, I'm
talking
sorry.
bachelor shit.
Oh, my bad. I take that back with the quickness.
Ah,
For
thank you,
those
thank you.
for those who want to talk,
Damn, Gail.
I know. Tell us how you really feel.
Crash.
Uh,
Oh my god.
for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk media, because you do teach media on the side. Let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find my regular boxing column at Communities Digital News. That's COMMDIGI News, comdiginews.com. Very thin boxing schedule in January, but we'll still try to keep you entertained with some feature interviews. There's some youngsters that we're going to let you know about, and we'll get you through until we get some more fights later in January.
Yeah, and just a bit of note here: we may take some time off the beginning of the year because you can only talk about so much, and you can only stress things out so much. And as Gail just noted, in terms of significant bouts, there's not much happening for the next few weeks. To be honest with you, so I may take that time off. We'll discuss things behind the scenes here and see what we'll do. But I'll go to Daniel for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, particularly the Miami Heat, because the NBA is back underway right now. Um, or for those who want to check you out, just beat down and clap back and stop a mud hole on fools talking nonsense on Twitter. You got a lot of comments in terms of your reaction to something from Goldie Taylor, and I mentioned something, and you mentioned something as well. You got a lot of notifications about that I saw. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, it involved. Let's just say it involved MTV and Michael Jackson. Yeah, catch me on
Well,
Twitter at
press to be
RawKUZ99, and go ahead and cheat this Wednesday because yeah. So on Twitter, but this Wednesday we are back after a year off because 2020 is 2020. Like me, Joe, and Francis, hope are gonna get back. We're gonna talk about the year, see what's going on, make it a little bit short, but hopefully, like I said, hope to have this year built up because the way things are looking, oh Jesus Christ, like we may go in full lockdown again. I don't want to do that again, but we may
right.
be forced to.
Let's right, right. Indeed. Let's hope things things change and things change quickly. So yeah, it's not looking too good. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness with me, you know what it is on Twitter. Brother Jr. at Brother Jr. 76. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to find out all information regarding pound for pound boxing report for the time being, the blog page is the place to go to. P4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Check the top right of the page. You'll have links to where to find us all over social media, the Twitter page, the Facebook page, and as well as on Tumblr. Um, where you can find the show on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast platforms. Where you can donate, got a Cash Me and PayPal donation link. Let donation be the best nation. If you have the change, if you don't go outside yourself to just donate to the show. But if you do have a little pocket change, please shoot some coins to the Pound for Pound Box Report. Um, and last but certainly not least, my online coaching page, as I said again at the beginning of the show. If you're looking to get the body right in terms of a New Year's resolution and whatnot, or take your fitness up to the next level, check out my online coaching page. And I am an online coach for beachbody.com. And all the so many programs on Beachbody on demand to be specific. I really can suggest you check out some of the programs on there, suiting all your fitness levels and your fitness goals and whatnot. And 2 week trial, got a 2 week trial running throughout the year. So if you want to take advantage of that to get the year off right, please do. Um, as I said, there's no real boxing happening, no significant fights happening. So there will be no previews of the show. We'll talk behind the scenes in terms of what we'll do over the next for the rest of this month, to be specific, for the rest of this month. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining us on the show. Thank all the comments and the questions in the live chat. I really, really do appreciate it. It warms my cold little heart to see so many fans paying attention to the show and the really, really kind comments. I really take that to heart. I'm really, yeah, it does me good. It makes me feel good. It makes me think that I'm actually doing something positive here. So really appreciate it. As I said, for those who are listening, checking us out on iTunes and whatnot, the music that you will hear, that you heard at the beginning of the show, uh, Doom inspired beat from ALBM Productions, kind of a tribute to the passing of one MF Doom. And as we head off, for the folks on iTunes and Spotify and whatnot, won't hear it live on YouTube because I don't want to get in copyright. We are closing the show. We will close the show uh, uh, with a bit of MF Doom. And so, yeah, this has been episode 311 of Pound for Pound Box Report. For Gayle, for Daniel, shout out to everybody here in the chat once again, the live chat. I'm your host, Michael. Everyone have a good evening, good night, and rest in ultimate power. Uh, one MF Doom, all caps.